Hello, I am still Christa Butalese. I'm the editor and curator of Odyssey magazine. And as you know, I have the pleasure of speaking with a wide variety of people in conversation here. Today, we have someone who may not require much introduction for any of you. Her name is Diana Cooper, and I couldn't be happier to be talking with you on 1212. What great timing.
Hello,
Welcome, Diana.
yes, thank you. Lovely to be here.
I appreciate you making time. Diana and I started talking because we are cooking up something really wonderful with her for next spring, in October, our time. Um, but we're going to have a couple, two or three conversations before that and include you all. Diana, I always ask people to introduce themselves here. And I will admit I'm curious to see, how do you introduce yourself to people if someone doesn't know who you are?
Oh, I'm just a very ordinary person who came from an extremely normal background. By that I mean it was a very 3D background. All my relatives are doctors or lawyers or that sort of 3D person. I've probably insulted a lot of people there, and I was getting divorced. I was absolutely, totally at rock bottom. I didn't know how I was going to live, earn a living, what I was going to do. And I knew nothing about anything spiritual or psychic. It had always been totally derided in my family.
Mhm.
And yet, when I reached that rock bottom point, I sat in a chair and said, if there's anything out there, show me. And you've got 1 hour.
Timer's on.
Right, yeah, because I was going out in an hour and an angel came in. A golden being of light stood in front of me, and although I had no idea about anything, I knew it was an angel. There was no doubt in my mind. I literally held out a hand, took me out of my body on a journey. And the most important part that I remember was we flew side by side over this hall full of people. They all had rainbow auras. And I said to the angel, am I down there in the audience? And the angel said, no, you're on the platform. You're to be a spiritual teacher. What? I came back exactly an hour later. I had no idea what a spiritual teacher was. I had no one to talk to about this, but I wrote it all down. And then I decided to train to be a hypnotherapist. And then I started to meet, a whole lot of synchronicities happened that pushed me in that direction, which of course I now know is the angels pushing me to where I was meant to be. And then I started to meet people who were on that wavelength that I could talk to about the experiences I then started to have. Because, of course, my family, not my
You had no
children,
background.
but my parents, anybody around me, they just thought till they died that I was completely nuts and had
Well, that
never
is
had.
the risk we run, isn't it? That is.
Absolutely. It was not part of their journey whatsoever.
And it so often isn't.
Hmm.
Doesn't it seem that way? The most spiritually connected people I know certainly didn't start out, in that way. I certainly didn't. It was what, as a young child, it was what saved me in a very difficult environment.
Hmm.
Um, I saw them as the old people or ancestors, but certainly because I was raised Christian, some of them I saw as angels too. And I think that's a common thread for, I cannot think of anyone who grew up in an environment that spiritually fostered them,
Right, because you
to
have
have
to
a point
stand
of
out.
view.
You have to be alone, and you have to know that you're walking a lone journey if you're going
Exactly.
to do what you came to do.
The hero's
And
journey.
that's absolutely fine because there is so much assistance available. Uh, 2 years since then, I have learned so much. Every day I learn more about the assistance that they are ready to give us.
And how
We never
long ago
truly walk
did you
alone.
have this hour-long tour? Can I ask what year that was or how long
How
ago that
long?
was? Yes.
Um, well, it was 42, which was a changing year. Yeah. 7, 1, 42. They're all multiples of 7. So every 21 years, especially, your guardian angel has a meeting with your overlighting angel to decide what you need, if there are any changes that have to happen in your life. And so it is an important year for everybody. Of course, I didn't do it.
I love that there's as much as people tend to think this is out there or crazy, there are these things like 7 year cycles, there are these markers. So this was quite some time ago for you.
Oh, yeah.
You
So it was 40.
remarkably, yeah,
I know 85, so I was 42, and so that makes it 43 years ago.
half your life ago. And how wonderful,
Yeah.
inspiring. I just want to underscore this, how wonderful and inspiring that you're still learning. I think that's another hallmark of this kind of work or this sort of life, that it doesn't end. It's not just you
Well,
wake up and
we live in the most amazing universe. Mm. You know, the universe is so vast. How can anyone ever know everything?
it's
I'm so
absolutely,
blessed that every single day something new.
I agree completely. I'm just going to acknowledge that, and I'm also going to ground my energy because we're having a little bit of a technological glitch with the sound. So we'll repeat as we need to so that you don't miss things. I also am very aware that energetically it is, let me just acknowledge, I'm extremely happy to be talking with you. I because I grew up in the same kind of I am 20 about 20 years younger than you. 21. There's a 7 year. And I feel like, as I told you before before we started recording, when I began doing these conversations, I have a short list of 4 people I really wanted to talk with, and you were one of them. And this just happened. I thought that was years from now.
Oh.
So this is a lovely surprise.
Hmm.
And yet it's not a surprise because my whole journey with taking on Odyssey magazine and becoming curator was all synchronicities, was all of that sort of thing. And so of course this all happens, which is another part of living this way when you open up to possibility. Um, I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit about, okay, so yes, people will think you're crazy. Yes, all of that happens. Many of us, as we talked about, hear voices and people. I've had 3 people this week tell me, "Oh, I was afraid I was schizophrenic. I didn't know that's what this was." So people live in fear of that.
I think there's a very big difference between receiving messages from angels, ancestors, high frequency beings, and any low energies that are trying to get into you. It's basically all the same thing. A schizophrenic who is being spoken to and being told to do something dark is connecting with a spirit that should be
Some
avoiding at all costs. And if you hold your frequency high, you have the highest intention every day of doing what's the highest good for all, those beings simply cannot touch you. And people can sense the difference. They may be frightened because that's what they've been told throughout their lives, that if you hear a voice, it's bad. But actually, if the voices are high frequency energies coming in to connect with you, people know it. And
does
then
it
they
make you
start
feel
to
good?
listen
Yeah,
and hear.
does it feel good? Fear is something in our
Of
modern world
course.
that we have way too much of, and we are taught to be afraid of anything other than what we're told is correct. That's true. And yet, exactly, the higher frequency things feel high frequency. They make you feel good, yes.
Yes, yes. Well, they make you feel good, but they just have that resonance of truth because what we're aiming for is truth. Now, truth can be different at lower levels to lots of different people, but the highest level is just about love. There is only one energy at that level, and that is love. And that's nothing soppy. That just means doing what's best for everybody, acting with integrity. All those energies are encompassed in love.
And what's best for everyone is often what's best for you first and foremost. Yes.
No, always what's best for
Oh,
you. If it's for your highest good, it's for other people's highest good too. So the universe rearranges itself so that it works for everybody. People don't always realize this, but if they would focus on doing what's for their highest good, then it will work out for the best for everybody too. Now, that takes out selfishness and everything else. I mean, for the highest good. The universe is just amazing in the way it works everything out for everybody.
if we allow it to, if we allow it to, it's like giving up
Yes,
control.
you have to send out that intention. You have to let go and just say, help me to do what's for the highest good. Show me the right way. Make it possible. And then the beings that are looking after it, it sometimes we don't always like what happens, but if, for example, an interview doesn't take place at the you think is the right time, it's going to take place in what is actually the right time.
As we learned again this week, these lessons are repeated as needed, for sure, for sure. We were
Absolutely.
determined to meet on Monday, and then this morning when I realized it was 12:12, I thought, oh, okay, thanks, got it. Um, there's so much that comes up. One of the on this point, something that's been coming through for me just in the last weeks, because I have talked about for years fear and love, and exactly holding things in the frequency of love rather than fear as we're taught. But a new concept has come through in terms of dealing with fear. And there's so much fear mongering right now, all around us, that I love this. And it's anticipatory joy, anticipating joy,
And that's love.
which is love.
That comes into the spirit of love.
So, yeah, I love the idea of anticipating joy, which is, of course, operating in love. Yet so much like worrying is like praying for what you don't want, but we spend so much time generally,
Yeah.
so many of us worrying, which is towards fear. If we anticipate joy, can you imagine the change that would make? I mean, look at your life, in your 80s you're doing.
Every single morning, uh, every single morning, I open the door and I stand out there like this and I say, thank you for the wonderful day I'm about to receive, the magic, the miracles, the friendships, the love, the joy that's coming into my life today. And it makes me feel good. It sets up a good day. Thank you, universe, for everything amazing out there. And when I go out at night, I do the same thing and say thank you. And I ask that the light codes of the stars and planets that are now available to us come into me so that I can accept them and start to live with them, with the metamorphosis that you were talking about earlier. Because as you undoubtedly know, not only are we at the end of a 260,000 year cosmic era, which ended in 2012, and the new one starts in 2032. And so we are right at the end of it, but we're also at the cusp of a new evolutionary shift for humanity. Now, since Gaia began billions and billions of years ago, There have been 6 times when scientists have got no idea what's happened because there's been a quantum shift in humanity, and we're on the cusp of the seventh quantum shift. So everybody that's incarnated now has come in to experience these two major things. Never happened before anywhere in this universe ever. And part of this is that humanity is going through a metamorphosis. Our We have to carry much more light in the future. So our carbon-based bodies are no longer going to be any use to us. We've got to have something that'll carry more light. So we are literally shifting at a cellular level, metamorphosizing and create crystalline bodies. So we will in the future have crystalline light bodies, crystalline heart, crystalline brain, and crystalline eyes. And these are going to give us much more capacity than we have right now. Be healthier, stronger, be able to live differently. We'll have massive storage in our brains. They'll be like computers, but connected to source energy. So we won't be downloading or receiving anything of a lower frequency. Only that which is fifth dimensional and higher will come to us. And our soul will decide what is for our highest good so that we can access the information for our highest good. Our crystalline eyes will operate totally differently. There are 10 levels to come in. So at some levels, you will be seeing with enlightened eyes, or you'll be seeing into people. And at some levels, you have the capacity to heal what you see in others if it's for their highest good. So we will all be healing each other and working together for the literally for the highest good, because we will be connected with oneness with our new bodies, hearts, and brains. So humanity is literally shifting, and the shift starts now. So it's extremely apt that you are naming this magazine articles
First
this
issue.
month as Metamorphosis, because your first issue, because that is exactly where we are now. And this new move is being led by Merlin, the mighty Merlin. So many people are saying, oh, Merlin comes and talks to me. Oh, I've seen Merlin. Merlin told me this. Merlin is guiding me on that. Because his energy is everywhere right now. I can see that this is resonating with you, as I
My
said,
solar plexus from
because
here is just
yeah,
going like this.
yeah, yeah.
I'm Merlin, definitely. Merlin and Mercury, not the planet, but the substance Mercury,
No, no.
really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
resonate with me, for sure. For
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
that's quite for people watching who are not familiar with your work or the work of others or those like me. I think a lot of us are literally feeling this.
hmm
My body
well,
is, I nearly, I was poisoned 3 years ago, just
oh,
about 3 years ago exactly, and I was in the ICU for 3 weeks. Um, yeah, rat poison, warfarin. So that
oh,
affects, your blood and clotting.
ooh, ooh.
And they do not understand, the allopathic doctors don't
hmm
understand how I lived.
No.
I had two, uh, you know, I coded twice. I could have left twice in that
hmm
process early
No.
on. And I chose to stay because I think I didn't want to miss, I came for all of this. And, this is at 64. I'm at the beginning of my third act, I hope. And, um, and there was just this profound feeling of, I don't want to leave my kids. And I'm not, what I came for hasn't happened yet.
Okay. So,
But it's changed my body, literally. It's changed the way my organs work. Allopathic medicine had nothing for me,
Hmm.
other than some really extreme detox things, 10 days of blood transfusions for 10 hours a day, things like that, that nearly killed me. Um, and I'm grateful for that, but that hasn't been what healed me. What has healed me has been becoming more and more, to some ancestors came to me when I was very, very young as a survival mechanism too, and they were in full force. I'm writing a book about this, so it'll
Oh,
be interesting
interesting. Yeah.
because I think, and I'm not the only one. Are you seeing this? That there are people who are going through major shifts,
That's
especially physically now.
hmm
Yes. Okay, so
Well,
that's the
I
precursor.
had cancer 10 years ago for the first time, and then I had it again. But the
Hmm.
first time I, you've had it three times. Okay, it's a very interesting journey because, and I'm so grateful to it because I had so many amazing experiences because of it.
Hmm.
But when I was at the point of death, the family had all been called in, there was no way I could survive it. Then they came in and said to me, twice this happened, um, do you want to stay or go? And I said, will my grandchildren be all right? Will my dogs be all right? They said yes. And we have to do the practical things first. And then I said, well, I don't mind, whatever's for the highest good. And so I stayed on, and a few days later, exactly the same thing happened. And they gave me a kind of life review each time, but a deeper one the second time. But I was actually supposed to go then, but they then gave me an add on so that I could do some more work.
What
And
they
they
called
gave
it.
me
That's
another mission
exactly
to
an
do.
extension.
Yeah,
An
that's right.
extension. Ah,
Well, it's more than extension, it's like a new mission comes
yes.
in. And so that was fantastic each time.
My understanding was, or my feeling, and just sort of understanding as well, was that okay, I got to stay, so that means we move into a whole new, you know, not a diff. I'm not a different person. I'm more of what I was, and more of what I innately am. And then I decided I was in bed for a couple of years, and just
Oh, that was really major. Mm.
yeah, no, it was it was pretty stunning, um, and quite a I can't say there aren't, I've always had all sorts of entities, and I've had a profound life in that regard spiritually,
Mm.
uh, which I am immensely grateful for. I just feel really lucky that I get to see all of that, and it also I don't know. It's just changed the way I operate with that. So after a couple of years of being in bed, I just started thinking for about 2 months, all right, I've spent a great deal of my funds on getting better, and I need to do something. And I know there's something to do. What is that? Never thought about a magazine. Never I love magazines, but never in my life. And this just sort of landed in my lap. The original founder died 12 days
Oh,
after she found out I was taking over. And we're very, very, very similar people. And and Odyssey is just the vehicle that ties up everything that I've ever done as a human being in terms of, occupation and professional things, and more importantly, everything I am. And I wonder, is that the kind of thing that you see happening as we get to 2032, that people will find ways to live which resonate much more deeply with their souls?
I think that it's essential that in the golden future, which is where we're heading, then people will not do jobs unless they really feel deeply satisfied. Everybody is going looking for soul fulfillment, and there won't, you know, jobs are being taken away everywhere, all over the world, and people are saying, oh dear, what are we going to do? But actually, it's not going to work like that. People aren't going to want to work in those ways, and so that's it's all part of a plan to give people more leisure time to do what they love doing. And when people understand abundance consciousness instead
Right.
of the poverty consciousness that the entire world seems to be soaked in right now, then you don't need to do jobs. You do what makes you feel happy, what makes you feel satisfied, what gives you peace internally. Well, there'll be much more community love, community caring, looking after each other,
Mm.
instead of this, oh, the state will do it, or you just don't get looked after. That is currently the situation. Literally everything is going to shift, and it will happen like the 100th monkey, where the monkey very quickly said the baby monkey dropped his yam in the water. It had all been covered in sand and was very gritty and horrible, and found that when he dropped it in the water, it was clean. And then other monkeys followed suit until a certain number of monkeys did it, at which point, not only did the monkeys on that island do it, the monkeys everywhere did it. The consciousness had spread. We are approaching that point where the consciousness of those who have already reached a higher level will raise the consciousness of everybody. That's why light workers are doing their work, raising their own frequency, so that there will be this sudden shift where everybody rises up, and then we work together for the highest good of all. The new portals are opening all over the world, radiating us with energy. The stars are portals, they're bathing us in energy. We have got the most monumental opportunity at this time for spiritual growth. There's never been a time like it. It's quite extraordinary.
The support, just the support out there, is amazing for those who are ready to receive. I have about 5 roads I could take from here, but
Mm-hmm.
just a quick on your monkey metaphor, literally. I lived in the very rural bush here when I first came, and we'll talk about South Africa specifically in another conversation. But it was in the middle of a 4-year drought, and it was amazing. So most of the lodges and parks were feeding animals lucerne, a kind of grass, because there just wasn't. And it was so unusual, Diana, because different species were eating together because they would dump the lucerne, off of,
Mm-hmm.
of a bucket here and there. And I followed, there was a baby rhino who was born up in Limpopo the day that I arrived in South Africa
Oh,
to stay,
wow.
New Year's Day 2016.
Wow.
And she was very funny. She would dance around her mom, but because they ate with buffalo so often, she started to act like a buffalo. And it wasn't just her, but that
Wow.
was extreme. You couldn't
Yeah.
not notice it. Um, and to watch all of these species, and even their natural behavior, is to warn for each other. If a predator is in, different species will warn for someone,
Yeah.
completely different. And that's exactly, I was just in the bush last week and I was thinking about this. I believe that that's what's starting to happen with people. We've moved from that healer as martyr, we must use all our things to help the people and not take care of ourselves. We've moved out of that, I hope almost entirely. I mean, I'm sure there are some still, into this reciprocity. Let's take care of ourselves, we take care of each other. And what an incredible thing to witness.
Mm-hmm. Well, even in places in countries where there's a lot of fear, the groups are starting to gather together because one person holds quite a flame. If you hold your energy totally steady in peace, you can influence a lot of people. But if you get a whole crowd of people holding that flame together, you can change a country. We can change the world. And
Absolutely.
that's beginning to happen.
I believe it's going to happen far more quickly than anyone's thinks possible.
I believe so too. Well, 2032 is the official start of the new 260,000 year cosmic era.
Six
And,
years.
well,
Yeah.
8 years, yes. And so that's no time at all. And you can either look at the world and say, oh, terrible things are happening, or You can look at the world and say, my goodness, look what's changed already, and how quickly it's changing, and how governments are even changing, and they're going to be the last. And so everywhere there is shift afoot.
You
And
see it even in the news here, the G20, South Africa just, saying, we're not going to play that old game anymore, and how that's beginning, you know, to settle out into different arenas as well.
Mhm.
So I'm aware, this is fascinating. I'm aware that we may have people watching. These conversations are part of my way of letting things spread, and Odyssey's way. I'm aware we may have people who are just beginning to wake up or in that process, and they really don't know what's happening. They maybe are having dreams that feel very, very true, and yet they're not sure whether to believe them because they've been taught differently. They
Mhm.
may not feel comfortable in the cultural or religious structure that, they're questioning what they've always believed. They may question their gender. They may question,
Hmm.
just all, for me, where I belong in the world 10 years ago. How do you, as a teacher, we still haven't gotten to exactly what you do, but we'll fill that in writing in the thing. You have schools, you speak, you do a lot. Bless you and thank you for that. How do you address people who are just on a little bit shaky ground? How do you reassure them and maybe guide them to being okay with this kind of transition?
This is probably going to sound a cop out, but I think people receive more from your energy fields than they do from what you actually say. So if somebody is in great doubt and they're perhaps skeptical and doubting, just hold your light. Be yourself. They will receive from you without even understanding how it happens. Light codes of knowledge, peace, things that open them up, and their guardian angel will ensure that they receive whatever they are ready for from you. So you don't have to do anything. You just are yourself and you are automatically spreading that to them. I said to my guide some years ago, and I think it's changed since then, but at that time I said, what am I? Am I a healer? Am I a teacher? What am I? And he said, no, you're a light. You
Yes,
see,
you
a
are.
light holds spiritual information and knowledge. Don't have to do anything, but you are automatically spreading it. And I think that there are an awful lot of people around who are lights. They're like beacons. And of course, the universe ensures that they are in exactly the right place so that they hold that energy for the people around them. And those people are receiving reassurance and all sorts of other things without knowing what's happening. And that's the way things are shifting.
Thank you. I think that's exactly what people need to hear is it doesn't matter what you call yourself. It doesn't matter what you do on Sunday mornings or Friday nights or whatever. It doesn't matter how you pray. It doesn't matter what you do. Um, as long as you line up with that light.
Yeah.
When I came here to South Africa and figured out came back and figured out I was going to stay 10 years ago, I was very shortly afterwards introduced to a man, a traditional healer here from a long lineage, who everyone called Baba Gumedi, who it turns out, this is a long story, I'll tell you sometime, maybe when we're together, but it turns out it was prophesied that he had a daughter who would come from across the seas. And
That's you.
it was, and I've written about it, and I'll
Wow.
write more about it. But it's a phenomenal story that many people would like to shove aside and say, "How is that possible?" I've never felt like this was my true color skin ever since I was a young child, and I grew up in
Interesting.
in New
Mm.
England in America. where there
Wow.
was some cross-cultural mixing, but not a lot. Um, and he had been told that this child would come as an Mlungu, as a white person.
Mm.
So he wasn't surprised, thank goodness. Um, and he called me, he couldn't say R's, there aren't R's in the Zulu language. So he called me Christa Light. Christa Light. Couldn't
Ah.
say right. So it's Christa Light. And that's become kind of a nickname for me. Um, but he's the one too who said that to me 10 years ago as I was shifting from one side of the world to another, from a long marriage to being single, from being in a fairly Caucasian world to being in a very Zulu world, a very African world, everything, very different language, everything, different customs, different habits. And he would remind me just to be light. So it's
Interesting.
very interesting to me. Those are you two come from very different worlds, and
Mm-hmm.
yet here we are with the same instruction.
Yeah.
And what can go wrong with that, really? I mean, light only begets light, right?
Yeah. And light gets brighter and brighter. So really our quest is just to make your light as bright as possible.
What do you find most challenging about what you do?
Nothing. I love it. I feel I am incredibly blessed, incredibly privileged. I suppose one of the challenges is that my eyes get so tired on the screen a lot. Um, and yet that's also
Email.
my choice. That's also my choice. I could spend less time, but I love it. I'm saying, okay, Merlin, could you give me some more information about this now? And we'll sit down, and then I've got to get it all onto my laptop, of course. But who could want anything more? I go out into the woods, and there are elementals in the trees, and the trees themselves, all with things to say and communicate. Everywhere you go, it's exciting. People are exciting because even if you're just walking down the road and you see somebody and you can see that from their body language that they're not happy, you can send them love and you can shift them without them knowing what's happened. And
And that's
let me
all
just
you
say,
need to do.
yeah,
That's all you need to do.
many years ago, I it was when I first started, and I stayed in this bed and breakfast in Glastonbury. I was going on a course, and I didn't know that the lady who ran it was a medium. And I went to the course the first day, came back, and the next morning she said, you in blue," she said, pointing to me, saying, "You came in with a whole lot of angels yesterday, and you went out and you left them here unemployed all day." And I thought,
You left your angels, lady.
wow, yeah. And so I come in with all these angels, and because we have free will, they
Yeah.
can't interfere. They can't do anything unless we ask them to. So unless we say, "Oh, that man looks unhappy, please can you go and give him some love? Oh, an ambulance has gone past, please can you go with that person and help them for their highest good?" They can't do it. And so we've got all these angels working with us, wanting to do something, and they're standing on the street corners unemployed because
Twiddling their thumbs. Yes.
we're not giving them jobs to do. So it's really important.
Isn't that just a perfect picture of that? We
Yeah,
are so much more powerful than we uh,
absolutely.
know, use,
Hmm.
employ. We're so. I did a painting years ago, and it was called "We Rise." Those ancestors,
Mm,
those whose shoulders we rise on.
mm, mm,
There are, whether you look at it as ancestors or angels, or I want to ask you about dragons and things like that. They're all human beings. I think learn best from story, and all of the stories that you tell and the characters, so to speak, that you work with are such easily adored
mhm,
entities for human beings.
mhm.
And I think one of the things that I love most about your work is it makes what so many of us are taught to be scared of, it makes it happier and friendlier and more approachable and mystical and magical. Um, how did so the angels obviously you employed your angels again and carried on, and then you didn't leave
That's
them on the
right.
corner anymore. And how did you so you moved into different arenas? How did that evolve?
It's just always happened naturally. For example, you mentioned dragons. I'm
Mhm.
at home one day and a dragon appears and says, I want you to write a book about dragons. And the dragons came to me one at a time. The dragon from Pluto was the most pushy and insistent and gave me information and asked me to write about them. And a similar thing happened with the unicorns. I was sitting outside one day in the garden. Now, this is very unusual in England. I looked
Yes.
down and there was no, not that bit. The next bit, which was there was a snake underneath my chair. And
Oh, yeah,
snake
not like here
itself,
where that can happen. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
no, in England it doesn't happen. But it was the most beautiful snake. And I got up and to call somebody to come and have a look at it, and it just glided away. And snakes to me are metamorphosis. Something is about
Transformation.
to
Yes.
happen. The
Hmm.
very next day, I'm sitting there, and this white light appears. And I'm thinking, that's not an angel. What is it? Then I realized it was a unicorn. And that was the unicorns coming in and asking me if I would write a book for them. And that's how new things keep coming into my life. And
It's that simple and that easy, and yet then you need to make it come to life for others. So there's
look,
the
I have to put the work in,
right,
and,
right.
and that's my part. But the joy, the wonder is beyond anything that you can imagine.
It is, and it opens up. I find every time I unlock a new level of things. Dragons were a very big thing for me as a kid. I'll send you later a picture I did of me inside a dragon with
Oh,
all
wow.
this gold outside, and I was hiding inside the dragon, and then I figured out all the jewels were outside the dragon, and I had to come out. It was from a
Hmm.
dream when I was a child that I still remember vividly.
Wow.
And I have your dragon cards for people. If
Mm.
you would like to play with dragons, Diana has a beautiful, beautiful deck of cards about this. Now I have to go look up Pluto, of course.
Now we've got
Uh,
dragon cards, unicorn cards, angel
well, you
cards,
got every kind of
everything
card there
cards.
is. And I just feel like I'm gonna plug you a little bit here, and which I only do for things I really believe in. If you are listening to this and you're starting to think, oh, well, maybe that dream I had was more than a dream or
Mm,
whatever, um, I believe that your work, Diana, is a really good starting place for people because it does not, this is why you are on my short list too. It is not, this is a belief system, and if you believe in this belief system, then you don't believe in anything else. It's not that. It's just these lovely invitations to open your mind and to set down your beliefs about what's right and wrong and to play, to expand,
mm,
to be gifted with the presence of far more than we're told exists. So something's been another thing that's been coming up the last week or two for me is that it is far easier for those who wish to be empowered. It is far easier to control people whose beliefs are very limited, who don't allow themselves um, to fully embody, what being human and being a soul in a human body can be. And it makes sense. They were showing me sheep. I like sheep. I grew up with sheep.
mm.
So I'm not downgrading sheep here at all.
Oh, no, no.
Um,
They're
but
wonderful healers.
yes, they are. They truly
Biases.
are.
Yeah.
And so many, I mean, even, the lanolin is such a healing thing. But if we don't expand, if you, to speak to people who are listening, if you don't, as an individual, allow yourself access to outside, you know, say you were born in South Africa, you were born female, you were born, 50 years ago, so in the apartheid system, you were born Christian, the not everyone, but the Afrikaans community has very fundamentalist, very strong Christian beliefs. Those are all boxes, like crates. And you may enjoy being in those crates. And if that is the case, then, that's fine. If you're happy where you are, shine your light just where you are. And yet, if you stay in those crates, it means that you don't have access to so much more. Tell me if you think I'm off base, but that's the way I see
Well,
it.
I just think that some people incarnate to stay in a crate, and
Yes.
other people want to climb the mountain. And there are many, many paths up the spiritual mountain. And I don't think it's my job to do anything other than just share my stories, certainly not to judge anyone else's path, because there are some beautiful, beautiful paths. Some of the work I've been doing over the years has been with orbs. Orbs are these light bodies of angelic
I'm a
beings.
photographer, so very familiar with orbs. Yes.
Yeah. So I've written a couple of books about orbs to explain how to translate them and what they are, etc., etc. And this man sent me these orbs, beautiful, magnificent archangel orbs, and they were in the room when his mother died. They were all taken. So I phoned him up and I said, "Please, could you tell me about your mother?" Because
Mhm.
the angels had come to collect her because she ascended, and these were all the orbs he'd sent. And he told me, "Oh no, she was just a quiet little lady, but she had a huge heart. She had no money, but she would give anything to anybody, and everybody loved her." And I thought, yeah, that was her ascension path. So beautiful that she was just a big, open-hearted, loving, giving woman to such an extent that she ascended.
And that's so important. I want to underline that. You don't have to be on YouTube. You don't have to, start a school or a magazine. You don't have to do any of those things. It's just, for much of my life, it was much more, I did hospice work with HIV and AIDS.
Mm,
I worked with homeless.
mm.
And, and I spent a lot of time up in deep rural Zululand or
Service work, yeah. Mm,
and Swaziland.
mm,
And there's a part of me that would be very happy. My father passed, he too was poisoned.
mm,
But I would be very happy to be up in his roundhouse with his medicine and just practice up there.
mm,
We all have different callings.
mhm.
And God knows in whatever form it comes out, the world needs big, open, beautiful hearts.
Yeah.
That he caught that. I'm assuming he sent you a photograph of the orbs. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And so I think that's actually an entry point for a lot of people. That seems to come up quite a bit with people. They'll see these orbs and say to someone, what is it?
Yeah. Why am I?
Uh,
The angel Mary seems to be coming in a lot, and they're taking videos, and there's this blue orb with little wings chasing them, and they think, "What on earth is that?" And of course, when they realise it, that's a huge opener.
and it tends to, when you tell them something about this, it tends to sit very well with
Hmm.
their souls. It's like, oh, I never
Well,
would have thought of that, but yes.
at some level, they know.
And yeah, often, yeah, I think there's often kindness shown, and first people are see things that at least resonate with them on some level for something that they know.
Hmm.
So I know you've written, how many books? A lot of
Just
books.
signed a contract for my 35th.
Well then, I'm only 33 behind you, so but I've
Are
got
you
about
written
three
two
more
books?
running in here.
Good stuff,
Um,
yeah.
what a joy! One of the things we're really, besides writing, that we're really wanting to bring forward in Odyssey is creativity, because I think creativity is consciousness in motion.
Absolutely.
It's a way of sharing, obviously, the light, and a way of sparking curiosity in others. So, what is the new book about? Can you tell us or no?
Well, a little bit about what I was talking about before. It's about the stars, the energies we can receive from the stars, but it's about the huge shift in humanity, the quantum shift, the bringing in of the crystalline light body, heart, brain, eyes, to change us, to metamorphosize us into the beings that we are going to become, and the energies that are available to help us move into this higher level of ascension. Because Earth was supposed to be a fifth dimensional planet. That's what we are aiming for, so that we moved into the new as a fifth dimensional planet. But of course, humans have free will, and light workers everywhere started to raise their frequency beyond anything that was ever expected or anticipated. The Intergalactic Council had a special meeting earlier this year to discuss what was going on Earth, because it was beyond any expectations. And so now we are in line to become a seventh dimensional planet. And humanity has to shift their bodies, their consciousness, and everything to accommodate this. So we have got such opportunities ahead. Can you imagine? You come in as a soul to Earth to serve, to do what you can at this special time, and then suddenly it opens up and you'll find you're in university instead of in college. And everything changes and becomes so much more exciting, more interesting, more expansive.
And it opens up to just anything being possible. For those
Anything.
who don't, the way I describe this is you've always gone to the beach on vacation. That's the pack up the kids in the car. That's the 3D experience. You've
Yeah.
always done. And then what we're being called into is to get into a vehicle that we think is a car, but can transport us across the world or across the galaxies. It's an entirely different thing.
Hmm.
I suspect you can explain the dimensions better than I can for those who this is new information for.
Well, dimensions are like rooms. And so in each room, you have different experiences. And so at the first levels, you're rocks and stones that don't have an advanced consciousness. And then you go up through the plant kingdom, 3D humanity and many animals. Then the fourth, and then a third dimension is when uh, that's where humanity has been for the last
Mhm.
10,000 years, where
That's how
their
we
hearts have been closed, minds have been closed. And then you start to open up your heart and become fourth dimensional. And then you step into the fifth dimension. That's when you start caring for others, looking out for the bigger picture. And that's where Earth is right now. So in Atlantis, of course, that
yes.
was the time when people, well, it was part of a 260,000 year cosmic era. But out of that 1500 years, the people stepped into the golden age and maintained a fifth dimensional frequency. They had awesome technological abilities. They could do incredible things. They developed their psyche, their spiritual and psychic gifts incredibly. It was a time of huge happiness. But
Language was different, sounding, all of that. Yeah.
they didn't really speak in the same way that we do at all. But they were fifth dimensional on a third dimensional planet. So they were being holding that energy with that lower energy below them. Now Earth is fifth dimensional. People have moved into the fifth dimension and are moving upwards because it's so much easier now to maintain a much higher frequency. And so we are being boosted up by Earth too. And of course, because of what's happening on Earth, we are the focus of what's going on in the universe. Everybody is looking at Earth and saying, wow. And of course, the reason is because Earth was when the clarion call went out for a place that would take on the experiment of free will, all the planets throughout the universe, it said, no way. We're not going to do that. It's much too dangerous. only Earth said yes. And so that is another reason why an experience on Earth is so valued and considered to be so dangerous and so special.
I tell people that being on Earth is an extreme, considered an extreme sport.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not for
It's the
everyone.
jungle. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah,
all, I'm
if you
sure
come
you've,
here, you're the elite. Like you've passed God knows what to get
yeah,
here.
absolutely. And I'm sure you heard this before. But they say that if you meet somebody out in the universe and you tell them you've been to Earth, they go, "What? You've been to Earth? That's amazing. You are the elite."
And you lived for how long in Earth time? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
I really feel that, as well as this intergalactic council. That's the for many, many years dreams of that, and putting my hand on a tablet of some sort on this long conference table, and it would beam everything up that I had seen and that I had done, and
Right.
the moving through this sort of
Extraordinary.
city, kind
Mm.
of sort of very multidimensional kind of
Hmm.
area they were in or city they were in. Um, I am very curious about. I mean, I'm very curious about every. I'm curious. Period. I'm curious about everything to come, and I'm very curious about how many people will see this particular conversation and others that we have, and start to piece things together from what they've seen and perhaps not understood.
Hmm.
It also, when you're in South Africa, I want to give you a book. Um, by Baba Krito Mutwa, who was a Sanusi, which means his family were the keepers of the Zulu mythology and secrets,
Interesting.
and
Mm.
also just incredible big jewelry pieces and things
Hmm.
like that.
Mm.
And yeah, he's a fascinating character, and was, I believe his father was something like Seventh Day Adventist. He was raised by his father and his stepmother, as is the Zulu way, for some
Hmm.
time, and he was sick, sick, sick all the time. He just died a few years ago. He was about 100.
Mm.
So it was a long time ago. And then eventually it just wasn't working, and he was literally bedridden. And they sent him to his mother, I think, probably to die, or to fade away. His grandfather was of this lineage and brought him in, and he wrote a number of fascinating books in which he talked about things we don't talk about. It was the story of my childhood, too. These secrets and things. And he was very maligned by many for doing that and for exposing people other than Zulu people to these stories. Yet they weave into this, and I'd really love, for you to see how that was prophesied so long ago,
Mm.
and
Mm.
extraterrestrial beings and the
Mhm.
council and all of those things. Can you imagine? Years and years and years ago,
Mhm.
this was generations ago. This was seen. So it's like a mystery, when you're reading a great mystery and it all starts to weave together at the end. And, it's
Well,
just we can't read the
interestingly
last few
enough,
pages.
sorry, for the past 2 years, I 2 years ago I did something about people merging with their monad. It was time to merge to the higher aspect, the aspect beyond your soul. And I did an event about it. And from then I was asked every month to do a new updated merge. So it's only about 15 minutes meditation to do every single day. And people were promised, and I was promised, that every single person who did it every day, meaningfully and intentionally, would become seventh dimensional by the time it finished. And this month, for the first time, when I came to receive it for January, they said, yeah, this is the last one. So that's interesting. But the journey, especially for the first, perhaps about 15 months, each month we went to the Intergalactic Council to petition for something for Earth. And then one member of the council would step forward and take the petition and work with it for Earth. And we did some amazing petitions that have come into place, like putting the pure white flame of Atlantis round the entire planet. And so that has helped the whole planet to be in protection, but purified and have a purer energy, but all sorts of different things that we were given. I was given every month to put into the meditation, and that that was very interesting. How we worked with the Intergalactic Council, and how they step forward to help our planet.
I have to look back because I discovered these. So if you're watching, if you go to Diana's YouTube channel and you look for Monad, M like Mary, O, N like Nancy, A, D, they'll pop up.
Mm,
I had dreams about the council for 2 or 3 years, quite
interesting.
regularly. It was like check-ins. I would
Mm,
travel,
mm,
and it was all quite futuristic in a very cool way,
mm.
very multidimensional. And then I discovered your Monad recordings, and I started doing them. And I wonder if that's when I stopped having the council dreams. It's about the right timing.
All right, maybe because then you started actually working with them at another level.
Isn't because I was over, yeah, because I was doing this. So there's a case in point for everyone.
Mm.
Diana, one last question for today, although I could talk to you forever and ever. But um, what's your hope for the average person right now? What is your hope for how they will um, exist in this during this change in these next several years?
I suppose if there's one word, it would be happiness. Because so many people are focused on their fears, whereas actually let it go and focus on the happiness. Focus on what you do want. We are powerful beyond our comprehension. You know this, and every single thought is making something happen. Every action, every word is creating something, and people will insist on talking about their ill health. I had a very interesting
Oh,
experience.
my cancer, my
Oh, yes,
diabetes.
absolutely. I was standing in a queue, a coffee queue, and there was a woman, and she was going on and on about how she got COVID and how dreadful it was, and da da da, and all her friends had got it. And I watched her body. Every single cell in her body opened up like a flower and sent out fear. And of course, there was a great big COVID virus there, as there's a
Mm.
cloud of it everywhere, and it was just coming. Oh, she's open to it, attracted it straight into her body, and it was affecting other people in the queue, and some of them were opening up to it, making that cloud bigger. They got a whole nice little audience there just waiting for it. And there were other people that were solid. Their auras were not going to let that in. They were not going to have that illness. Why should they? They didn't need it, they didn't want it. And so
That
I
was their set
watched
point.
how it was happening right there in front of
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
How they invited in what they didn't, what that woman invited in what she didn't want.
It's what you expect.
Yeah.
It's what you see coming. I saw this on a game viewer last week in the bush. There was we had been having a lovely few days, and a new couple. People change in the vehicle over days,
Mm.
and there was a couple. It was primarily the woman, and had a full-blown hissy fit, which would be labeled a Karen thing, in pop culture right now, in the middle of the bush, literally
Wow.
screeching
Mm.
at us to be because she heard a word that she didn't like, and that she had paid a lot of money to be there, and that we should all essentially shut up.
Mm.
And first of all, she's one of 8 people on a vehicle. We all pay the same amount of money to be there, which I pointed out to her, but she couldn't hear. And then I
Yes.
decided to just disengage. I
Mm.
decided to just do the light thing. I wasn't going to let her. This was my first time in the bush since I was 6. So in 3 years, and the bush is my happiest place on earth. So, I think that kind of thing can be really contagious if you have receptors. I like how you did that. It's almost like in the reef, how they can pull things in with
Yes. It's
flowers or
exactly the
different
same.
kinds of things. And, if your little flowers or little branches of your coral are exuding light, it's very hard for other things to come in. That sounds simplistic, and yet it is simple, I guess, but it works.
It's impossible because
Yeah,
if you're sending out only love, you can only attract happiness, and you cannot attract any of those lower. Oh, if you attract them, they just bounce off. They're not
exactly.
interested in you. You're not resonating at that frequency with them.
It's not it's junk food versus, something good. It's certainly that practice alone, gratitude and a lot of just very base human, a lot of Buddhist practices, things like that. I grew up in a very fearful household and was a very miserable person for a very long
Hmm.
time, for a very long time.
That's where
And,
humanity's been for 10,000 years.
so I've experienced this in my body and I know how
Mm,
it feels differently. And
mm.
I find it a joy as you do what I do. I love what I do. And to have you join me to help put that message out there so that people don't have to suffer needlessly and can find joy in life is a great, great blessing to everyone who hears this. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been great.